Ngā reo i ngā mana, i ngā karangaranga maha. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. It is a privilege to be able to speak to you and to be able to share today some of the work that the iwi Chief Executives Consortium has done. What they have done is that they have developed a tikanga framework. And I'll explain what that means. But basically it tries to describe the lens through which Māori look at and interact with the world. And it has, I guess, quite a bit of applicability to sustainability. So I'm a whāngarei girl, born and bred. My parents are John and Lena Williams. My dad, John Williams, was on the Whāngarei City Council from 1966 to 1989. So I was brought up during that time with an effort of serving community. That was taught to me from my parents, and my mum was the first area coordinator for Whangareo in Te Kaitokera. And my role today is to represent the Kaitokera Iwi Chief Executives Consortium. And my role with them is as the Executive Director. So if I could just introduce them. They comprise of the CEOs of the above iwi entities. We have Joe Cody, starting from the top of the region, although Ngāti Kuri sits above that. We have Joe Cody, Mai Takapo, Te Rarawa, Whaingaroa, Ngāpohi, Ngāti Wai, and Ngāti Whātua. And the reason why they got together and work in this way, much the same as our iwi chairs do, is because they share a similar lineage, similar values, similar history, similar stories, similar challenges. Kaupori, that's roughly near the top of the Northland. Mai Takoto, roughly around, I'm not going to put boundaries on this, so I'll be by the time I leave this room. But around Awanui, Rangimarie Harbour, Kaimaumo, around there, across to 90 Mile Beach. Obviously, Te Aukori, Mai Takoto and Te Rarawa share common boundaries across down Te Oneroa Apohi, or 90 Mile Beach. Te Rarawa go from Mahipara down the west coast to, the northern side of the Hokianga Harbour into, now, the name of Mangamokas, to the Mangamokas. I was thinking, I'm going there and it's a Mangamokas. And then across to the east to Whaingaroa, which is just south of, I guess their boundaries are roughly south of Piki Beach. Some would say further south than that, through into just south of Whaingaroa, Kaio, Ngāpuhi, the biggest iwi by population within New Zealand. Ngāti Wai, which is down the east coast from Bland Bay down to Auckland. Oh boy, I hope there's no Ngāpuhis in there. And Ngāti Whātua. So when we talk about Kaitokera, we're actually talking about their tribal area, and it's actually far wider than Northland. I just need you to know that, because you'll see that I will intersperse Kaitokera and Northland, and when I do that, I have specific meanings associated with it. Alright, so what I've got up there is, if you want to understand us, you need to sort of understand our ecosystem. And so Te Whare Tangata, it sort of depicts what the Māori, traditional Māori social order would look like. If we start down the bottom, we have whānau, families. Obviously they have shared lineage. Leadership would be exercised by kaumātua, and the authority that they exercise is whanaungatanga. And then whānau, as they are related, you have extended whānau, their common lineage, if they would get together, that would be hapu. We have numerous hapu in Te Kaitokera. The leadership that is exercised within hapu is by rangatira. The authority that they exercise is rangatiratanga. Again, hapu, shared lineage, shared tupuna, Their alliance, they'd be working at a iwi level. The leadership that is exercised within New Zealand would be waiariki. The authority that they exercise is te rorangatiratanga. And then when iwi, through shared lineage, work together collectively, like they're doing here with the Taitokara Iwi Chief Executives Consortium, it's called a waka level of engagement. And if you think about the times when our people came over here, it was basically on shared waka. So waka level engagement, the leadership is exercised by ariki nui, and the authority that they exercise is kotahitanga. So the consortium, we just think at that upper level of, and I don't mean that in terms of hierarchy, but just in terms of how the alliances work, is a contemporary representation of the traditional practice of kotahitanga. So the things that we are interested in, or the areas of focus that we have, is that we're looking at things where we want to create collective impact, both regionally and nationally. We're looking at sector and systems change. We're looking for transformation across whole of populations. We're looking to create enabling environments for whānau wellbeing. We have a generational horizon, certainly not a 3-year one. And we're looking at the macro environment, and we have a long-term focus. And so a lot of these sorts of things were actually spoken about by Ann Palmer earlier this morning. And so that's quite different from what you would see perhaps at an iwi level. So if the challenge or the issue is location specific, then that would be something that iwi individually or hapu would be involved in. This is for those sorts of issues that have an impact on our ability to be effective locally, because it affects the policy or the legislative environment or a number of systemic problems or barriers that don't enable us to prosper as we should be. So, talked about needing to have a compelling vision. Well, the vision for the Taitokara Iwi CEs is this. We want to create a new narrative around Māori, that it is actually normal to be Māori, to be healthy, to be prosperous, educated and connected. And I'm sure even from a regional point of view, or if we've got people here from Kaitaia, there are those who get sick of the labels that put on us about who we are. But that's actually who we are. Right. So in order for Māori to be successful as Māori, we need to understand what makes us tick. So our job is to create enduring pathways for whānau to cultivate their own generational well-being. So it goes longer than just their lifespan. It goes wider than just children and old people and teenagers and all that. It's across everything. Now I talked about tikanga before. So for Māori to be successful as Māori, then tikanga matters. Tikanga matters to us because we have to understand what makes us tick. One of the kaumātua that I've worked with, and he's been working in education around obviously some fairly poor outcomes for our people. And one of the things he has always said, if you can't reach us, you can't teach us. And to understand who we are, you need to understand what matters to us. So what is tikanga? Well, tikanga is what we believe about our origins, the sacred obligations that it places on us. It defines our values and our principles for behaviour. Actually has our indicators for success, our key performance indicators, and our generational accountabilities. It is the lens through which we look at everything. So up here, manaakitanga and kaitiakitanga. That stems from, those are two sacred obligations we have. And the genesis of them is this. Here's what we believe. Everything we are and everything we have is divinely created and gifted to us. That means that it places many, but up here, 2 sacred obligations on us. The first one, manaakitanga. It's a sacred obligation to care for people. I don't just mean a conceptual care, but to gently care for people. That's where the spirit of generosity comes from. Spirit of forgiveness, spirit of compassion. The other obligation it places on us is because everything that we have in order to generate our well-being or look after our well-being was gifted to us. Therefore, it places an obligation upon us to care for the life-giving capacity of Papatūānuku in perpetuity. And those 2 obligations, basically, when they work together dynamically and work together well, it generates oranga, which is well-being. Well-being in terms of humanity and well-being in terms of the environment. So we don't actually use profit as an indicator to show whether or not we are successful with anything. We will go back upstream and look at those things. And so down in the 3rd line, our Genesis therefore puts upon us sacred values. The first one there is tika. We have an obligation, a sacred obligation to do what is right and what's fitting, whatever that situation happens to be. We also have an obligation to be pono. Pono is that how does reality arrive at the truth? It demands from us the highest levels of integrity. So sometimes that means that instead of the easy decisions, we will take the hard ones. Because integrity would dictate long-term you get better results in some cases. Aroha is basically our obligation to I guess, what you send out you bring back. So it's an obligation to engage with the world with real humanity, with compassion and with love. So looking through that lens, we engaged BERL, the Business of Economic Research and Economics Research Limited. And the reason why we engaged them is that we wanted them to have a look, do a stock take of what the Taitokara Māori economy actually looks like. Now they did that back in 2013. And the reason why we used them were 2. They had already done the same sort of exercise across New Zealand as a nation about 3 years earlier. And the second reason why we chose them is because they were able to quantify what the contribution Māori make to the economy looks like. And in terms of our creating a new narrative around ourselves, we knew we're contributing. We're certainly not a drain on the economy. So what did we see? We saw that in the Māori economy we had lower levels of industrialisation, we had higher population growth, both at our younger generation and also with our older generation. So a lot of the income earning capacity isn't, in terms of population, isn't that great actually, in terms of the number of people who would be in employment. The jobs that our people generally occupied were in the low-skilled, low-paid and vulnerable industries. In fact, at that time, Māori household income in Taitokara was about $143 per week less than non-Māori. We also knew that, so income per capita, let me just explain that. Income per capita is basically if you take an economy and you look at what worth in terms of goods and services that they produce that people would be prepared to pay for. If you look at that and then divide it by the per head of population, you get income per capita. So we did that just for Māori and Taitokere, and their income per capita was 60% lower than for non-Māori. If it was the same, we'd be contributing an additional $400 million per annum back into the economy. So what that means is that all of those things characterise the Taitokere and Māori economy as a developing economy. And so that means that the policy responses to economic growth for an economy that's like that has to be different from the policy responses that you would use for a developed economy. So you can start to see our agenda starting to form in terms of where we needed to actually focus our energies. And I guess the biggest disappointment for those who would ordinarily be in economic development is that it meant that we actually couldn't just focus on the assets that came to our people through settlement. We actually had to focus on our people because our people are our economy. So many would say that that's actually not very sexy. We don't care. That's what needs to be done, and we need to fix the fundamentals. It meant that we need to actually change the way that we do business and the way that we view ourselves. Because the world as we have created it is a process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. And that's, well, in terms of tikanga, that hasn't actually changed. But I do believe that we have seasons. And I happen to think it's quite exciting, particularly when we see the people that are gathered here today in this room, that maybe the season is now for our region. So that's changing that hasn't changed, thinking that hasn't changed for Māori. It's just maybe we're allowed, it's of value now in this context. So we actually need to lead the change in the conversation. That's one of the things we have realised. You've talked about today in the morning needing leadership. And I think too many times we actually devolve our responsibility for showing leadership because we wait for institutions to show it. For Māori, we're not waiting any longer. We're going to actually take some leadership for our own destiny. Settlement has helped to do that, but I think we're just impatient. We're sick of waiting for the right things to be done. And that means it has always been our responsibility to stand up and do it. So if there is going to be economic growth, but no improvement in health and well-being of our people, then the exercise for Māori is of questionable value. And I would suggest that actually applies not just to Māori, particularly with the levels of homelessness and poverty that our nation is enduring. So tikanga matters. So we've sort of turned around what the general business model would look like around economic development. Ordinarily I would say, well, you need to make money. So how do we use the resources of our people and the resources of our land to generate as much profit as we possibly can? Tikanga inverts all of that. What it says is this: if we look after our people and we look after our land and we use those things to benefit both of them, we will make money.
Yeah.
That's why tikanga matters. So we're going to carry on. So we started off with the top 3 lines there. We finished at tika, pono and aroha. So from tikanga, we put together what our business model will be. And so we go down to mana. Mana is the exercise of influencing your authority and your power. And so in the exercise of that, what we will be doing collectively is to create an enabling environment for our people to prosper, which means that we are working in the areas of policy development, changing laws, getting involved in regional plans and district plans, because that's the environment within which our people live, and it has a huge impact on their ability to do well, and to do well in business, and to grow food sustainably. because it has implications on their access to water and access to their land. The next piece there is whai pono, and if you remember further up, when we talked about pono, it says, how does reality arrive at the truth? So whai pono is about putting information into our hands that is informed by research, shaped by tikanga, and backed up by Western science, so that we improve the level of decision making that we make around how we should be using our resources. So I'll be talking about some of the work we're doing there. The next one is actually right around our people. It's around mātauranga, it's around education. It's around lifting their capacity to make better decisions for themselves. It's about lifting their capacity so they have more options about the sorts of work that they can get into. And you'll find in terms of sustainable food systems and that sort of thing, that will end up, I believe, as one of the key drivers to being successful in that area too. Because an environment, an ecosystem without people is just
An ecosystem.
dead. Yes. It's waiting for people. Whaingawa is about building our leadership capacity to actually make good decisions, but leadership capacity that's actually trusted. It has both cultural and business sophistication, and it has levels of accountability and transparency so that people will trust them to make the right decisions. But leadership capacity in this context would be around, so if you did an evaluation of what Māori were doing pre the treaty and that sort of thing, they were huge traders. They still are. If you do an analysis of them, they're in the small businesses. They're actually really great entrepreneurs. And so maybe we need to shift our focus. Well, we certainly don't want to be called the basket case, so maybe our economy is the boutique one, where it's a lot of small businesses doing really, really well and really doing that. And the final one is mahingatahi, and that's about collaboration. We want to work with people, and we will work with people who share the same values as us. We want those relationships to be equitable and respectful. And we're talking about collaboration today. So that doesn't mean we have to be at every decision-making table. But there must be key points in certain places where it would be useful for us to actually either be in a monitoring situation or where it's appropriate for us to have some input. So we don't want to be everywhere, just come in at the right times that actually matter. So if we come down from that tikanga framework, we're talking about our role being about creating an enabling environment. So what we've had to do is actually to do a policy stock take of all of the policies and all of the planning documents and all of the strategies that have an impact on Māori, on the Māori economy, so that we know where to target our influence. We've also, one of the things we are really keen on is about investment in digitally inclusive communities. Because one of the things I guess that we're all grappling with is the fact there's huge inequity. There's lots of communities that are excluded, mainly because they can't afford to connect up, or they can't afford to pay what's required in order to be a digital citizen. So we're looking at being far more inclusive than that, and finding a way that people will have the same opportunities that everyone who are privileged to connect up enjoy. So we are doing quite a bit of work right now. The council CEs and the iwi CEs actually work together. They meet quarterly. There's a draft work program that they've got together where the councils are supporting the iwi CEOs on work that is important to them. So that's actually around the regional plans. It's actually around the district plans. And why is it relevant here? Because there's obviously some things that are going to come out from here that have a huge impact on your guys' ability to be successful. Which means it will have a huge impact on our people to be successful too, because they're in the same ecosystem. So if there are things that we need to advocate for in order to make that happen, then we would go and push that through iwi ecosystems, through our relationships with the councils, which are a little bit different, through the relationships of our politicians with council politicians, through the relationship with our politicians with ministers. So that gives you huge access to pools of influence. Next one. So the next thing that comes down from that tikanga framework is mātauranga centred best practice. So we have a whole lot of Māori land that has been returned as a result of settlements. We have 3 of those 7 iwi entities that I mentioned previously who are up in Te Hiku, who have recently settled. We also have huge swaths of Māori land, freehold land, that's unproductive at the moment. And so what we've been doing is that we're actually working with, it's called the Māori Whenua Ora Research Project. We're working with Auckland University, the Sir James Henare Research Centre, Massey University and Otago University to use tikanga based frameworks to create decision-making models around how to increase the productivity of the Māori land and water resource. So that will have implications on food growth. Because if there's anything our people know a lot about, it's food. The third pillar is basically centred around this, that there cannot be a sustainable social and economic revolution for Māori without a simultaneous or prior educational revolution. We're actually talking around the lunch table today about some of the decisions we make around our food choices and why people make the decisions that they do make. And that's why I sort of suggested that education, particularly in terms of this movement, will actually be one of the bigger key drivers or levers to you being successful, apart from collaboration. Because people will not make good decisions unless they develop critical thinking capacity. And so it's really important for us that we elevate the educational achievement of our people. Because right now, this is the product that we have in terms of how successful the education system has been for our people. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid.
Great, cool.
So one of our top priorities is basically to have a future-focused education that is proven to meet the learning needs of our children. And in order to do that, then we need to actually have them wired up digitally. One of the things that the Taitokoro EBCE's consortium is working with is the Taitokoro Education Trust. We're working to bring an education program that is similar to the Manaia Kalani project in Tamaki, Auckland, where they have been able to elevate or accelerate the base learning rate of our community to 1.5 times the base learning rate of their learning age peers. And that's quite significant because many of our kids are starting behind. When they come into school, year 1, 5 years old, they generally have, many of them have, particularly those from vulnerable families, the learning age of a 3-year-old. And if you're assuming that it's at 5 years old, then we have a few problems because it won't match up. The last thing that you want for your children is to grow up thinking that they're stupid. And their stupidity apparently came from the fact that the system wasn't there to actually meet their learning needs. So that's why it has to be really important that whatever education system program is in place, it actually meets their learning needs. Okay, the 4th pillar is around whairawa, which is building our leadership capacity. So that's the recalibration of all our resources. So each of the iwi entities are sitting on, obviously, some assets and influence. And they've actually done something that they never thought would ever happen. And that is basically shown each other what was in each other's storehouses and told the truth about it. And I can only say that they were fairly challenged and sobered by the reality of what they saw, and understood that they actually needed to change what it looked like. So they are actually working together at a national level. The iwi asset holding companies meet, and they basically are meeting because they want to do business together. It's a fairly easy collaboration because they share the same values. And what we are looking at is getting our income per capita up back into this region to where it should be if it was the same as for non-Māori. And so it's a plus for the region. And collaboration, well, that's about increasing our productivity, really, isn't it? And our chances for success. So by collaborating, because we actually can't do it alone, particularly if we're all little niche businesses, by collaborating, what it gives us is the access to opportunities of scale, gives us collective impact, enables us to share our successes. Now, a final thing that actually fits into there around collaboration is a Healthy Families Far North project that the consortium provides strategic governance for. It's a project that's been funded by the Ministry of Health. And the project really looks at the incidence of chronic disease in the Far North area. And what they aim to do is to cultivate or harness the thought leadership and build strategic alliances across the region to actually look at how we can all work smarter so that we build a thriving community. So if I was to put a picture up there about what the iwi ecosystem actually looks like, it's huge. It covers everything. It covers justice, covers education, covers housing, covers all of those sorts of things. The other development that is actually happening is that the DHB is now working with iwi to design and develop an Indigenous health system. So what would that look like? And obviously, we want to look at the determinants of health, and that actually doesn't necessarily sit inside doctors' offices or inside the hospital. But maybe if our kids were actually in, maybe if there was affordable housing, maybe if it was healthy housing, maybe if they had access to same services and resources that other people had, then they might actually do better. But certainly, if they had access to nutritionally dense food, I think that's some of the best medicine you could actually have. As opposed to taking, I'm not saying you don't need it, but as opposed to needing to rely upon clinical treatment. So that's the kind of shift and the moving and shaking that the Taitokere iwi CEs and Taitokere leaders are doing. Just in the background, while you guys are all doing that very good work that you're doing as well. So do we fit? I think so. I think we have a similar vision. We may not have articulated it yet, but we believe in, I believe in Northland, whose story is yet to be written. Kia ora.